Welcome to Perspective and Practice. I'm your host, Rachel Sadoff, and today we have with us Director of Operations at Beazer Homes, Bobby Thompson. How are you today, Bobby?
Doing very well. How are you?
I'm great. I'm great. So, Bobby, your career path has taken incredible turns from carpentry with your dad as a child to, going into the military and leading and becoming a leader, later on in the construction industry. When you think back on your journey, what stands out as a defining moment that, set your path for leadership?
I have to say it's that sense of accomplishment when you know that you've done a thing,
Yeah.
and you there's a bunch of gratitude that you have for seeing it all the way through, and that sense of accomplishment and watching something be built, or watching someone develop, or watching the successes that come your way from your helpfulness within the environment that you're working in. That's how it's happened for me, and that's the through line between my entire windy road.
Nice, nice. So share with us a little bit about, growing up with a dad as a carpenter and kind of how that all started for you.
Well, he's a really passionate individual, and he has a very artistic mind, and he liked to do things with his hands. And that kind of vision, that kind of tutelage that he gave me stuck. I am an erector set generation, right? A Lego generation for sure. And so as a youngster, my summers were filled with doing remodeling, filled with decks, play sets, the whole gamut, those summer activities for the entire congregation of our church and friends and family and word of mouth. There was no marketing. It was definitely just the quality of the product and essentially the helpfulness to the community that we were offering.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I think that like word of mouth references really show a person's like quality, but also just their leadership and their ability to just kind of build relationships and rapport and then like result in somebody being like, yeah, I really enjoyed, that experience with that specific person or that
Right.
company. So you've described your industry story as windier than most. How would those early experiences, whether remodeling homes or serving in the infantry or becoming an HVAC tech, shape your approach to leadership and problem solving?
Well, there's always going to be a problem to solve. One of my superpowers that I've been told is that I'm a connector that solves problems. And I've kind of honed that through the years in all the many positions that I've held and all the career paths as I've gone through my growth uh, in my entire career. And I can tell you that when you get good at a thing. And for me, solving complex problems with cool people is what I'm good at. It served me extremely well in all of the roles. And it's a foundation that you lay, that soft skill of problem solving, and that you build upon it, and that soft skill is transferable. And so it's one of the transferable skills that is oftentimes overlooked when we're looking at veteran candidates. Because I can tell you that there's no better leadership growth program than the military leadership programs out there. And so all of these veterans that have came and done their service, they volunteered and served valiantly, and now they're in the civilian population looking for employment. I highly suggest that if you don't have a pipeline to the veteran community, it is an untapped resource of rock stars who, if they need to learn your industry, that part you can teach. Some of the soft skills that they're going to bring, you can't teach. It's innate, and it has to be something that's honed like a muscle, worked over and over again. And they have that in spades coming from service.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Because many people struggle just with career transitions, but you've made a big pivot from leaving the military then, becoming a project manager to executive leadership. So, what advice would you have for people navigating career shifts, especially when they're stepping into unfamiliar territory?
Sure. Be informed, right? And there's the advent of technology now and LinkedIn and tech and the ability to network outside of your own industry, outside of your own roles, is to find someone that is where you were trying to be and find someone that is willing to talk about what it takes to get there. And you can do that passively. It doesn't have to be something that you're cold calling or cold connecting to someone. Get informed on your industry. Find out what the associations that they are members of, find out what publications that they are following, find out the voices that they look to for inspiration, and then you emulate that. And you start to get way more informed and you understand who the players are in the industry and the companies that are doing things in that industry. And then that way you can start to navigate your growth trajectory. And then you're looking for sponsors and mentors. And in order to actually brand yourself as someone who has something to offer, you have to hone your brand.
Yeah.
And easiest way to do that now with LinkedIn is to continue to curate and shine a light and celebrate what it is that you're bringing to the market, what it is that you're bringing in your current role, and explore those other positions and get involved, be helpful, be inquisitive, and actually respond to folks that are putting content out there in the internet and on LinkedIn. Actually work with them and comment and interact with those posts, and you'll be surprised at the inspiration that you will get, as well as the feedback that you're going to get from the audience that are already watching that individual along with you.
Yeah, no, kind of like this interview. Like the more people can engage and just kind of learn and be intentional about it, like the more almost like the algorithm like says this
Right.
person is wanting to grow. This person, I need to feed them more of this like growing feed into their development. And it's just funny how the internet kind of knows. It's just like, I'm gonna give this person the things that they don't realize that they need, or the things that they haven't thought about or realized that
That's
they
right.
need. So you've mentioned that the military is one of the biggest leadership development programs. So what were some of the biggest leadership lessons you took away from the service that may guide how you lead today?
I would say it's the whole soldier concept. Right now, branded for the civilian population, it's the whole human concept. It's not just what the person is at work in that role. It's their personal development, it's their family, it's their work-life balance, their own professional development, as well as their skills that they're doing, their health, and making sure that they're taking care of themselves. That full whole human concept was a major takeaway. And when you buy in and you explore everyone around you's needs, and then you educate, they advance. And when they advance, you as a team advance or as a company advance. And so that's the takeaway that I've used in all of the roles that I've had over the years. And it is reciprocal because when you take care of people, people take care of you.
Absolutely. I love I love that because that's very much how Break the Norm views things as well in terms of leadership. We look at our slogan as leadership skills are life skills. Uh, and we say that because leadership is in every person's a leader, whether they have that job position or title or whatever. Um, they're just leading in different areas of your life, whether it's leading as a parent, leading as a sibling, or a family member, leading in your community, leading in your job, leading in an initiative. Like, I think, and I feel like that is something that people don't always understand. Do you agree or disagree?
I wholeheartedly agree. You don't have to be a formal leader to have influence. And I think a lot of folks conflate leadership with a title
Yeah.
when you can absolutely be an informal leader. You can manage upwards. You can be a source of influence amongst the team that drives the team alongside, right? Leading from the front, as some would say. And there's times, even if you're in a role or a position of extra responsibilities or leadership responsibilities, that you might find yourself leading from a hill, right? Leading from the rear. And then every now and again, you got to jump off the hill and lead from the front, right? You got to charge forward with the team. And I think that individuals that understand influence and the different leadership styles, you can't use just one leadership style for everyone. Individuals respond differently to different leadership styles. And so you need to get really comfortable as a leader, whether you're in a role that is titled as a leader or not, being able to use emotional intelligence to change your strategies as you're talking to folks to get to the desired result.
Absolutely. I like that you talk about how leadership is influence. Can you share a little bit about how you define the difference between power and influence when it comes to leadership?
Absolutely. So command voice, right, or executive presence, they're kind of one and the same in the executive realm or when you're in forms of leadership. And these are all my personal opinions, right? And so the way that I view that is that even though you might have a role or a title that makes you someone that manages people, that does not give you power. What gives you true power is that the individuals are inspired to execute on the tasks at hand to get to the desired result, right? The intent of the entire activity of the company, whatever your mission statement is, whatever the goal is of the day, that they are inspired to do that with fervor because of how you've inspired them and influenced them to buy in to that task, to buy into the results, because the results are what every business looks for.
Yeah.
And the behaviors that they're inspired to do consistently will drive higher results. And no one will do that without inspiration or positive influence for a long period of time.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. And influence is such a powerful like trait that leaders can have. And I think that's like the true test of a strong leader that people want to follow is the ability to influence others and to create that vision of like, hey, this is where we're going. Do you want to come with us?
That's right.
And, when people can catch that vision and want to walk with you, and you then become the leader of wherever you're walking to
That's
or
right.
going together, like that's really shows the strength of your leadership and your influence.
That's absolutely right. And your energy that you bring to all of these moments pays dividends, right? If you have positive energy, and everyone has experienced it, they've been around someone who is an energy vampire, right? They don't bring positivity, they don't bring grit or stick with itness to a situation, and there's a lack of buy-in with those folks because they don't seem to be the one that they would want to follow. But
Yeah.
when you have those things, and you bring that to a team, your team starts to become perpetually optimistic, and that's a force multiplier. And that just drives the entirety of the team forward to accomplish a thing.
Yes, I love the kind of law of multiplication that John Maxwell always kind of talks about is, when you have five people and you really influence those five people, they can then influence five people and
That's right.
create that multiplying effect of, building people up, leading, influencing, and using that influence in a positive way, hopefully. Because a lot of times when I think of leadership power, I often think of like positional power or like rank or title and authority, and people are using leaders are using that power in a way to coerce people to do things, whether they're using fear or anger or those emotions to like make people do things like fear of being hurt or fear of whatever, fear of losing your job, and using that power to say, if you don't do this, you won't have a job. If you don't do this, you might not get this, or you might be hurt or harmed. A lot of times I think of that in the way of how I look at the difference between power and influence. Because I think it's important that people understand that leadership is so much more than just being a nice, kind person. Like,
That's right.
look at the politics of the world right now. Like, there's a lot of different kinds of leaders out there that use their power or their influence in a variety of different ways.
That's exactly right. I will tell you, obviously, I'm not here to speak about politics or anything like that, but I do tell you that there's a course on leadership and being able to pivot between the multiple styles of leadership to get to the end results that you would like. And individuals that get stuck in a Maslow's hammer situation, right? That they only see things as a nail because they see themselves as a hammer. They don't have the ability to be fluid and to appeal to more than one person because they're only using one methodology. So
Yeah.
they're not as nimble and can't execute the same way as someone who has that skill set to be able to read a room,
Mm.
identify the players in the room, identify the challenges, and synthesize that information quickly and respond in kind to make sure that the entire group are working in concert with one another to accomplish a task.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. Absolutely. So you talked a little bit earlier about sponsors and mentors who have helped shape your career. How did you find them, or how did convince them to build a relationship with you?
It's one of those old old timeless things. You got to do the job to get the job types of conversations, right? And so when I think of the answer to that question, it all comes down to your brand. It comes down to who are you, who are the people that are around you, how they see you, right? That's what matters. And that's what will make them step in for you or show up for you or open doors for you or to speak about you in a positive light in rooms that you are not in. That's all sponsorship and mentorship is. And you have to be someone that is representing that you are worth it.
Yeah,
And I say that energy that we talked about earlier, having that positive energy, that helpfulness that we talked about earlier, knowing that you are the go-to person to get things done and that you work well with everyone because every now and again you're going to have to collaborate with an enemy. Every now and again you're going to have to work with people of opposing views. And that's okay.
yeah,
And you need to know how to be productive
yeah,
in those environments and to work through that in a way that makes you highlighted, your brand highlighted as someone that is worth the investment of time.
yeah,
And so brand management is the way that I would highly recommend that everyone approaches it.
yeah,
Social media is prevalent in our day and age right now. And so as you're curating your brand, whether it be on LinkedIn or any other socials, you want to represent yourself in a future self stance. You don't want to be the person's like dress for the job that you want, not the job you have type of idea, right? You want to make the behavior match the position and the person that you want to be in your future best self. And when you start operating that way, it will organically come to you. You will attract that positive influence, those mentors, those sponsors that are willing to invest the time and effort to continue your journey.
yeah, absolutely. And in a past conversation we had, you said you believe in being helpful and leaving things better than you found them as a way to attract the right people. Can you share an example where this approach has kind of opened doors for you?
Sure, helpfulness always brings about the best in everyone, right? If you're being helpful, and you're leaving something better than the way that you found it, you are dependable to do the right thing. You are dependable to accomplish missions, tasks, goals, whatever the outcomes of the metric is, and you're consistent in that. What effectively happens is that folks will start to take notice. A lot of my board appointments that I've had, and this is my influence on the industry, has come from those understanding that I am the innovation guy that can show folks how to get from one place to another. I can solve complex problems. I can connect individuals to accomplish a certain goal in the industry. And so there are several positions that I've come into having and being appointed into that are direct results from doing those behaviors openly and helpfully in an environment that I find myself. And that might be in a boardroom, that might be at a nonprofit, that might be in my day-to-day operations here at Beazer Homes. All of it matters, and it all relates to one another.
Absolutely. It's funny that you use that phrase, like leave the room better, because at Break the Norm, we use that same phrase because when we were doing our strategic planning, we said, like, what do we want our clients or people or staff to feel, after a meeting with us? And one of our staff was like, we just need to leave the room better than when we came. And so like that's kind of one of our internal phrases is just leave it better as we kind of like
Absolutely.
like how teams like are like break and we're ours is leave it better and then we exit the room. So yeah, because I feel like when you can really exit that room where you've added value and you're not just taking up space in the room, and like that's really a test of leadership.
Absolutely. And one of my mantras, and those that have worked with me throughout the years will attest, one team, one fight is something that's a mantra of mine because it's making sure it doesn't have to do with your job title, it doesn't have to do with your job responsibilities. That ability to leave that imprint, that positive impact on a situation as a team and unified effort to get something done will always move the entire team and company forward.
Yeah, absolutely. So many people wait for opportunities instead of positioning themselves for them. How can emerging leaders get in the right rooms and be seen by the right people?
Well, that goes back to putting yourself out there, right? And that positioning, that posturing stance is you need to network. And it sometimes comes across as a grind or a chore, but you have to find the time to network. That investment in yourself is worth it. It is a people business that I am in. Home building is a people business, but it's not the only one. All of the companies that are out, it takes human capital. It takes people to get the job done, right? And so even in the advent of AI and all the things that we're doing with AI, it still has a people's touch. All of the language models, all of the prompts still have a people's touch to it. And so when you're out and about and you're learning all of the innovations that are coming, you're learning about your industries that you're working in, you have to get out there and you have to network yourself into a stance that you can call upon that network or interact with that network and be in tune with what's happening. And that will unlock those doors that you didn't even know existed will begin to open.
Yeah, definitely. So, talking about industry, you work both with national home builders as well as regional firms. So, what do you think are some of the biggest leadership challenges in the construction industry? And how do you think that leaders in construction should, think about and prepare for some of these challenges?
Oh, well, this is a sign of the current events that we are in, right? We're in a labor shortage. The industry challenge that is plaguing a lot of companies and a lot of businesses is a trade labor shortage as well as an internal labor shortage of qualified individuals that are A players, right? And so when we're looking at that whole human concept that I mentioned earlier, and we're looking at pipeline building and trying to figure out where we're going to source these pools of candidates. And it's not just the building industry. This works for everyone in every industry. You need to do so in a strategic manner that will feed your growth or feed your company and your business with players that will accelerate their effectiveness. And that's the end of the game for labor. And obviously, these economic uncertainties that our entire economy is under right now, the only way to navigate some of those is to have grade A rock star players who are executing efficiently and effectively at a high level day in and day out. And they do all the basics at a high level day in and day out. That consistency is what leads you, those behaviors is what leads you to be profitable and leads you to be successful. And that is the only thing that you can do is to professionally grow that whole human, personally grow that whole human, invest time and resources in the people that work for you and that you work with if you have external partners. And that's what will see you through those obstacles.
Yeah, definitely. And I think also in the construction industry as well, it has a lot to do also with just leaders building the right culture to where people, the labor workers want to stay and they want to be loyal to the company or the leader of the organization that they're, working for or subcontracting to, when they if especially if they're subcontractors and there's a choice between this company or this company and they're like that experience at Beezer or that experience at wherever was really positive, and I have to choose between this engagement or this due to timing, like just that laying that foundation over time with leadership and culture can make a big difference as well.
That's right. And I will tell you that a lot of companies out there uh, structure themselves around core values. They structure themselves around what key factors, what North Star drives them. And when you're looking at that culture, if people investment, professional development, work-life balance, health, and the care of their team members and their employers and employees is seen in their actions and their behaviors and the programs that they have within the company. That is what drives someone's feelings towards a company's culture. And to quote Maya Angelou, you might not remember what you did, but you remember how they made you feel.
Absolutely.
100%.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, that it definitely sticks to you. Like how as a leader you make people feel will influence your ability to influence down the road. Thank you so much, Bobby, for sharing your journey and your leadership insights. It's been such a pleasure hearing about your experiences and the lessons you've learned along the way. And for our viewers, if you've enjoyed hearing Bobby's insights today, don't miss out on other Break the Norm leadership interviews. And if your organization is interested in learning how Break the Norm leadership can help you develop your greatest asset, your people, click the link below. Thanks so much, Bobby.
Thank you, Rachel.